Good morning here at Memento Jiu-Jitsu, doing our final book club meeting for the 4 agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz. Today is April 11th, 2023. It's Evan here, and we have...
You want to go first?
Oh, my name's Tristan. You guys know me. I'm here back with some insights or some comments.
Yep, Justin here too.
Yeah, so without further ado... Oh, and we got another one coming in.
Big Nick is here.
The buzzer beater.
Oh my goodness.
We'll just let it flow like that because that was unexpected. No comments on the group text. So
walkout music or something?
Yeah.
Last time I messaged it, I couldn't come up. Like, if my message gets gonna get jinxed.
Yep.
There you go.
So who do we have? We already started recording, so.
I am Nick McCarthy. I haven't been here in a while, but I am back.
He's back.
Cute Nick.
Cute Nick. So yeah, we're just starting to talk about the 4th agreement, and that is always do your best. So I'll open it up to y'all. I have a couple questions, but what came up for you guys with that chapter?
That's like my life motto. My math teacher, I tell this story all the time in my kids' class, but like my math teacher, it might have been a Bible verse, but he was telling me like, no, even if you fall, you should always do your best, and that is success. And so like, that's like something I always tell my students, and you know, you always try to teach your students what you're always trying to work on, selfishly. But that's like my life motto is like do your best, and that is success. And I really like this chapter and how he like ties doing your best with like community and with like religious beliefs, and then with like just general like spiritualness. I really like his insights on that. It kind of widened my perspective of what that like quote kind of means.
Yeah.
That's how I view the chapter.
Yeah, I dig that he kind of puts it on a sliding scale and just acknowledges like the human element of it. If you know, sometimes you're just like not locked in. Yeah. So your best that day might not be your best overall, but you know, we get a chance to revisit it every day.
Yeah.
And kind of adjust and course correct.
I thought it was interesting how he said that doing more than your best can be like a detriment to you as like a person, like when it comes to like fatigue. Like how you're saying, like you have a certain usable effort throughout the day, and if you use too much of that effort, you end up getting burned out, which is something I never really thought about, you know, as an athlete and everything else. It's like if you're so focused on like improving, sometimes you can just like want to improve so hard you like burn yourself out. You know, so I thought that was interesting how you need to like manage the fatigue of like doing your best. I like that part.
Yeah, we're all people that like to push really hard and break through limiting beliefs and stuff. I like the story he talks about the Buddhist that said it was meditating, and how long would it take me to become a master, he says, and it would take you 4 hours a day for 10 years. And he's like, well, what if I meditated for 8 hours a day? He's like, well, it'll take you 20 years. You know, like the harder you push, the more then you're actually not gonna receive that.
Yeah, that's true. Because like in jiu-jitsu, like the more you try to improve at something, honestly, the worse you end up doing because you're so focused on it. But if you just like come in and you have like a general idea of what you want to work on, then like you improve a lot more. Like the people who are so focused on it improving end up like progressing less than the people who like enjoy it.
Yeah.
And the people who like just understand that it's going to take time. Like everyone's looking for that quick fix and that quick solution.
Have you heard the quote, the person that loves walking will go farther than the person that loves the destination?
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. I actually took a personality test, and it said that with my personality type, that quote will never apply to me because I'm always so focused on the destination that I'll never enjoy the process. And I was like, well, that's very comforting to hear.
At least you know.
Yeah. Time to change my personality.
Well, what I liked about kind of like the whole thing in general was that they said to do your best, not be perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what you guys were talking about in general. Like, don't push yourself too hard. Push yourself as much as you need to be pushed. I'm not pushing myself. That's like equal to yourself pushing as hard as you can, because our hardest is different.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I've noticed, like when you're talking about people who push themselves too hard, they get burned out. On my swim team, there was a kid who was very good, but his dad pushed him so hard. By the time he was 14, he quit because he was very, very good. Like he was making like national level swim meets, but he was like, I don't want this anymore because I hate it because my dad's making me be here.
That's that Tiger. Tiger Woods was the same way.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard about his dad? Dude, that was a crazy story about Tiger Woods. His dad would always like the E word.
Yeah.
He's like, if training ever gets too hard, you say the E word, which is enough. Yeah. And he said Tiger never said that word, and that like it like just That's why he has a whole issue with like prostitutes and like just like cocaine and all that stuff. Just because he was pushed so hard as a kid that like, you know, it just ruined him.
There's a lot of stress at that age, right?
Yeah,
to handle
but then as a
that.
parent, you got to couple that with like, am I pushing them too hard, or am I like just helping them understand they need to work in order to get what they want to get? You know, as a parent, I feel like, as you know, it's hard, especially when a kid enters like 8 to 10 to 12. Even teenagers are especially hard. It's like they just don't want to do anything, so you have to push them. But if you try to push them too hard, they just shut down.
Yeah.
So it's like
Well, that's exactly what's happening with my son right now.
Yeah.
So we were training 2 to 3 to almost 4 times a week, and with jiu-jitsu, and I love it. I want to be a part of helping, and I want to be a part of coaching, but it's also like he gets burned out with school, and then there's after school things, and like we're rushing, and it's like I want to not burn him out, so we kind of cut back to 2 days a week, and then now we're to 1 day a week, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna, on that one day, if he doesn't want to go, we're still going. We committed.
Yep.
But it's also like, it's that balance, right?
Yep.
Like you want to keep the fire alive, so he wants to keep going, and it's fun, and you're not driving him to where he grinds himself out.
Yeah.
But it's like you got to go enough to where it's benefiting you too.
Yep.
It's just like it's such a weird dichotomy, right?
Well, I feel like especially parenting nowadays with like all the, iPads and electronics, it's like, why would I go do jiu-jitsu where I'm gonna get beat up? It takes forever to get good at when I can just sit at home and just watch YouTube all day.
Totally.
You know, that's what I struggle with. I stopped playing baseball as a kid because it's like, the whole time I was just thinking about playing video games, and I was just like, I just want to play video games all the time. And my dad just like took me out of baseball and didn't really put me in anything else, and that was like one of the null areas of my life where like nothing really happened. And I like Joe Rogan's like points, like if you're gonna stop something, you have to do something that's either harder or equally as hard. So it's like if you stop playing baseball, you need to start playing violin, and you need to try to get really good at violin. And it's like you can't just not do something.
Yeah.
Which is something that I really agree with. And again, that goes back to just doing your best. That can be in anything.
Absolutely.
It can be acquiring a new skill or getting better at a skill that you're already good at.
I think what also kind of affects it too is going back to like kids as well is iPads, phones, Instagram, TikTok, whatever these things. Your mind is so short attention span that, and so instant gratification wise that going to jiu-jitsu 4 times a week for 7 years is unthinkable because I can't see progress right now. And sometimes, as you're talking about pushing your kids, they need to get pushed. As you were saying, going once a week, like you committed to this. Even if you don't want to go.
Yeah.
There are many times where I'm like, I don't want to go today.
Yeah.
And I think of every excuse I can. But you want to know what? I go anyways. I don't want to be there at all until after. Usually afterwards, you're like, I went. I feel so good now.
Yeah. Well, even if someone stops doing jiu-jitsu, if they've committed to like a year and they finish that year and then they're like, hey, I'm just gonna go do something else, that still shows like a lot of commitment. 'Cause you're doing something you don't want to really do, but you're committed to it.
Yeah.
It's like for me, it was like school was like that. It's like I don't want to do this, but I kind of like have to.
Yeah.
I don't want to do the dishes, but I have to. So it's like building that even. It may not even be like trying to get them to fall in love with the sport. It's trying to get them to understand like, hey, you need to commit to things, and even if you don't want to do it, you still have to do your best at it.
Yeah. You can't just like quit on a whim. There's like an exit strategy. Like, hey, we're going to push through this for like, here's your time frame. And we've committed to that. And now if you don't like it, then we can adjust and, come up. I'm not going to make you do something you hate.
Yeah.
But you can't just like quit things just because it's hard.
Yeah.
Like, that's the key thing.
Yeah.
It's like quitting things when they're hard is like the lesson under the lesson. It's like, hey, if you don't like it, if you really don't like it, that's a difference between just being afraid of failure or not liking something because it's hard.
Yeah, it's like a 2-week notice.
Yeah.
Like in that 2 weeks, you're not going to want to. You're already going to leave.
Yeah.
But you have to go. And I know a lot of people my age, especially, like they don't even do 2-week notices. They just don't show up to work, and they don't no call, no show. Like I know, like I would say about 50% of people that I know in my generation, they don't even put 2 weeks notices anymore because it's like they just don't want to have to go to work that they don't want to do.
Yeah.
But you got to do things you hate in order to do things you want to do.
Yeah.
So big tangent there, but
I think my dad would beat me if I did that.
yeah, that's what they should do.
Yeah, a couple things I highlighted here, and you have some notes too we can go into, but when you do your best, you learn to accept yourself. And like that's like really getting curious about our thoughts, and that's was one of the things in the other chapters at the end where he talks about being a warrior and doing your best is really like awareness. You can't do your best if you're not aware of what like you're doing. And so, because we're always so subconsciously moving around our lives, when you're actually like sitting with something and thinking about it, contemplating, like, hey, did I really do my best? You know, in the morning and in the evening and or just during the day, did I show up how I wanted to show up? And like that analysis is actually how you prove to yourself that you're doing your best.
Just the analysis itself is like the biggest thing. Like if you have the wherewithal to analyze like how your day was and how it was compared to yesterday, then that's like a big thing. And I feel like you have to analyze in like a really short term. Like for me, my analysis that I found like is the healthiest for me is like analyzing today versus yesterday, and that's it. Like not analyzing, oh, like last month I trained this much, or in the future I need to train more. It's like, no, like yesterday I did this, and if I even improved a little bit, like I have like a journal thing that I do now where it's like, if I did one unhealthy thing yesterday, I'm going to see if I can not do that thing today. And if I do a separate unhealthy thing today, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that today. Like if I ate a bunch of sweets the day before, I'm going to try not to eat any sweets today, but then I might end up sleeping in. And then the next day it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to sleep in. So it's like small wins and small battles like that.
I think kind of like reframing what success is too, because you can say like, I showed up today and I didn't make any progress. But if you're showing up, like the lesson or the lesson is you're building consistency.
Yep.
So you're still winning. And I think that's like a super powerful reframe.
Yep.
To kind of be like, hey, I'm not seeing like these super big like jumps in improvement or like skill or whatever it is. You can apply this to jiu-jitsu like at every corner. But if you're just showing up all the time, like you're making the progress.
And I mean, John Danaher said he's like 95% of your days are just meaningless. And he's like only 5% of your days throughout your entire life will have something crazy happen, like getting married or like having a kid or winning a big competition or publishing a book. It's like, but if you're only focused on those 5% of days, the other 95% are going to be miserable, and it's actually going to make the 5% of the days less likely to happen. So it's like you have to be, like you were saying, reframing what success is. Success should be something every day, and not just, it should be the 95%, not the 5%.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
That reminds me of the fire department. As a fire captain, they pay you to make decisions, but like you only make, you know, important life-saving decisions on fire grounds or just in day-to-day, like, you know, very rarely, 5%.
Yeah.
The rest of it's just like routine. Like you're just kind of like trained to do this and that, and like there's not huge consequences one way or the other. But you're paid and you're trained for those big decisions, for those moments when it does matter.
Yep.
And so, you know, having the habits in place that kind of the default is helpful too.
Yeah.
I also like comparing my days to comparable days. If yesterday, you're talking about comparing yesterday to today, sometimes I don't like doing that because sometimes yesterday I'm having a fantastic
That's
day,
true.
but today I'm sick.
Yep.
I can want to compare a sick day to I'm a fantastic
Yeah.
day.
You want to compare a sick day to another sick day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually coming right back to the name of the chapter is do your best. If my best when I'm sick is 50%, I'm doing 50%.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go for 100% like I could do on a good day.
Yeah.
So that's also, I'm not trying to like shoot you down or anything, but
No,
like,
that's true, though.
you should have a combination of both.
Yeah, because if you try to do your best in comparison to the next day, like if I'm sick and throwing up, I'm like, I'm going to do 100 push-ups. This is not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'll probably get more sick because my immune system is so compromised, you know? So it's like, I got sick the other day, and like doing my best was just opening my front door and letting natural light come into my apartment. That was my best. Like, it's all I could do. And then like the next day I was feeling a little better. I sat outside for 20 minutes, and that was like doing my best. It's like I tried to improve a little bit, but like you're saying, like some days you're just on fire.
Yep.
And other days you're like literally on fire. You know, like you caught flame and you were burning.
Nope.
So
I remember when I was very sick, my best, what I did was I walked out of my room, then walked back to bed.
Yep.
The next day I walked up the stairs.
Yep.
I stopped for an hour, lied down upstairs, and then walked back down.
Okay.
Then every day I tried walking up and down the stairs one or two more times than the previous day.
yep.
This goes right into what you guys are saying, and I have it underlined. God is life. God is life in action. The best way to say I love you, God, is to live your life doing your best. The best way to say thank you, God, is by letting go of the past and living in the present moment right here and right now. And they're such simple concepts, but they're so easy to forget and so easy not to implement. But then even just recognizing that we're falling short on that is good, because then you're like, hey, just keep showing up, keep trying to do better.
Every day's another chance.
Yep.
You have any other notes?
Yeah, just getting on the the idea of like consistency over the intensity, like this, I really love this part of the whole chapter is just showing up. Like, you know, it might not be your best day, but you're showing up anyway. You're building that muscle, and doing work for work's sake, I think, is an important concept to embrace. Like, we're all always looking for the reward, especially in jiu-jitsu. It's really easy to get caught up in like, I want to win this competition, or I want to get to the next belt or next promotion. But it's like, you're here for the long run, right? I mean, so like, let's just do the work. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, especially as a white belt, that was like my biggest issues. Like, I would start, and I was pretty athletic, and I'd already had martial arts background, but like, people would come in and they had like zero background like I did, and they just maul me. And I'm like, dude, how are they like beating me? And then like, they would train more than me. I'm like, man, they're just gonna get so much better than me. And then I remember Joe, like, I was a white belt, and I started training twice a day to try to get a lot better, because I really wanted my blue belt. Like, I halved my blue belt in under a year. That was like my goal. And he was like, just don't be a shooting star. And like, his thing is like, a shooting star is like really bright, and then it fizzles out like right away. So it's like, instead of being a shooting star, you need to just be a star that stays in the sky no matter what. And I know so many, I can say like 75% of my training partners were better than me, but they didn't keep training, you know. And like, that's why consistency, I feel like I really admire the dads who like, they're like, oh dude, I had a kid last week, and I'm like, how are you here right now? And he's like, I got 4 hours. It's like Stefan.
Yeah.
Stefan has 3 kids, a full-time job, and no matter what, he will always show up to a 6 a.m. class, no matter what. And it's like, but then you'll have people who have a lot less, like, oh, I'm going to college right now. And it's like, that's all they're doing.
Yeah.
And like, that's still a good pursuit, but like, they're not consistent with their training. Or someone trains really hard. I've seen this too. Like, someone trains extremely hard for competition training twice a day. I'm like, training with them one day. I'm like, dude, you're getting really good. They do the competition, and then I just never see them again. Like, they're like, okay, I'm done. I did a competition as a white belt, and I'm good to go. You know, or the blue belt. You know, you get your blue belt blues, which I'm sure all of you guys have had. I had my blue belt blues the day after I got my blue belt, you know? And that's when I realized, like, belts don't matter in the sense of if I put too much importance on them, then I lose the track of, like walking versus the destination. Like, once I got my blue belt, there's a big hole that was left, because I was like, dude, now I have to wait so long until my purple belt. Like, if a blue belt's 1 year, purple belt's gonna be like 3 or 4 years. And so like, that to me was just so insurmountable that I got really sad, and I didn't even want to come to training. But then like, when you fall in love with the process, you just forget what color your belt is. Yeah. And that's a good thing, I feel like. You know, I feel like the belts are good for progress checks, but I don't think they're good for like continual like striving towards it. Because people like Echo Charles said this. He said, if you want the belt, you're never gonna get the belt, but when you feel like you're the least ready for the belt, that's when you get it.
I know when I got my belt, my blue belt, I was surprised.
Yeah.
I remember I came to class that day. My dad was there too. I'm like, and we all lined up at the end, and they were talking about the belt promotion. I'm like, who's getting promoted today?
Yeah.
It's certainly not me, because I'm trash.
Yeah.
I am trash right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, I was just surprised, because I never thought I deserved it. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like that. I want to say I like underestimating myself, but as you're saying, I think because of how my dad raised me, that I don't particularly need that. I need this upgrade now, because I don't know. I just feel like that part you were talking about is really important, because when I did get the belt, though, it felt very good. It felt very good. It's not. I never felt finally. I was like, this is awesome, because I wasn't thinking about I need to get this. I was thinking about like, oh wow, I just got this, and I think that mind switch is very important to just staying in something long term, because if you, as I guess everyone was saying, if you are always trying, like if I get my blue belt and the next minute I'm like, okay, I need to get my purple belt now.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
Yeah.
That's really depressing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to deal with that.
You know what's an interesting concept about belts too is there's obviously a standard with belts, but there's also like the philosophy that everyone's belt is different.
Yep.
Yeah. Like your black belt is different than my black belt. And you know, all of our journeys are totally different.
Yep.
So like you start jiu-jitsu at 60 years old or you started at 18, your first step of blue belt is going to be totally different. And the instructor the professor is going to look at those journeys differently.
Yep.
And what your capacity is. So sometimes the slower it takes, the longer it takes, the more that the potential is for your height, right? It's like kind of like this dichotomy of, you know, it might take you longer because your upside is so much higher. Someone that's 60 years old, you're not going to hold them for 5 years to get their blue belt if they're moving along, because their top level is way different than someone that's starting at 18.
Yep. One thing that I think about, this comes down to consistency, but it's like I have a different view on consistency when it comes to belts. I heard a quote that said, "What got you here isn't going to get you there." So like, if when I got my purple belt, I remember I had to go do a big journaling session in a park afterwards. Like, it was a big deal for me because purple belt's like a really tough belt division in jiu-jitsu competitions, because you're either going to be a purple belt who's been training for 3 years, or you're going to go against purple belt who's been training since they're 4 and they're 17. You know, so you have to be ready for it. And it's like, what got you here isn't going to get you there. So like, for me, it's like I have to earn my belt every day. So like, showing up for me as a purple belt, like in my standards, isn't good enough. Like, I have to like show up and always give my best. Yeah. You know, because some people just show up and like they're like, oh, I showed up today, but it's like they showed up and they talked the entire drill, and they did one round of rolling, or they didn't do any drills at all and they just rolled all day, didn't learn anything. It's like, yeah, they showed up, but did they really give their best? Like, or did they do their best just to make themselves feel better by saying they did their best? So it really takes a lot of introspection, and like, am I really doing my best, or am I shortcutting myself, or am I going too hard? Right? It's like a balance there. So it's like, for me, I feel like I have to earn my belt every day. Like, just because I have my old instructor said, a belt covers 2 inches of your ass, you got to cover the rest.
Oh, that's
good.
Yeah.
So it's like, and that's like something I live by. It's like, showing up is damn important, but like, if you're showing up but you're not putting the work in, that's a separate matter.
I think there's a lot in life too. I'm older than you guys, but like, at some point there's this level of achievement and acquiring and achieving, and then there's this element of like, I got to give back. And like, continue to give back, and like give. It's like this peak and valley. And I think jiu-jitsu is like that too, where like the blue belt is like, you're acquiring, you're receiving, and then at some point you're like, I'm not there, but I have some to give too. Like, I can give back a little bit. And I think that obviously as the brown and black, it's like, that's their whole thing. It's like that their whole mission is to give back as much as they possibly
Joe said, if you're a brown belt, he's like, the more you teach, the more likely you are to get a black belt. Like, if he he said that's one of his main markers for promotion, is like, if you can teach someone, first off, the right way, how to do it, and it's like an actual technique that improves the room, that shows that you have a level of mastery over that technique. You know, and like, my dad was telling me, we were talking, and I was like, what's it like being like almost 50, you know? And he's like, well, the first 50 years I spent taking information and trying to become a good person and like making mistakes. He's like, the last 50 years are spent giving back that information and fixing those mistakes. Like you were saying, it's like, the first half of your life, you're making your life, and then the last half of your life, you're making your obituary. That's what my dad said.
That's really cool too.
Yeah, so that's my dad's a philosophy guy, so he's constantly meditating on that kind of stuff. But
4,000 weeks, man. I look at mine.
Dude, I'm reading that book right now.
Maybe that's the one we should do next. We need to talk about that.
It's a really good time management book, but instead of like, oh, here's how you do things more efficiently, it talks about like how to procrastinate better on things that don't matter, and how to say like no, and how to choose like your priorities in life.
I'm all about that right now.
Yeah. It's a really good book. I definitely think we should do that one next. I like that.
What you were talking about earlier with the belts between the 6-year-old and the 8-year-old kind of resonated with me, because right after I got my blue belt, one of the first questions later that my dad asked me was, "What are you looking to get out of jiu-jitsu now?" He was like, when you get promoted in the future, do you want to be a gym purple belt, or do you want to be a competitive purple belt? Because he knew my journey there would be different. Am I going to just be here because I want to be here to work out, or am I going to be here to compete?
And it's a big difference.
It's a very big difference.
Very big difference too.
So when I told him I wanted to be a purple belt competitor, or be a competitive person, he was like, okay, I now know A, what I need to help you with, and B, you're not getting your belt for a while.
Yeah, and there's a standard with that too. Like, as a gym owner, you get to know what, like you were talking about, a 60-year-old blue belt versus a 16-year-old blue belt competitor, totally different. And if you try to use the belts as like an end-all be-all, like every blue belt's the same, every purple belt's the same, then then belts really wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, because like for me, it's like when I was a blue belt, everyone's like, dude, you're not a blue belt. And I'm like, no, I am. Like I go to blue belt competitions and I still get like fucked up.
Yep.
You know, and like if they can mess me up, I need to be the best blue belt in the division before I can even think about being a purple belt.
Yeah.
And then when you get your purple belt, then it's just like, how am I gonna up the ante? How am I gonna get to the next level? You know?
Yeah. What do you guys think? Is that about it?
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
I think we should do 4,000 weeks next. And since I'm selfishly, since I'm already reading it, but you know.
I'm in.
Yeah, I'm digging it.
I'm down with that.
I'll figure out the schedule and we'll put it out. But Tuesdays mornings work for us.
Yep.
For me. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, everybody out there, it sounds like we're doing 4,000 weeks. I bought the poster and I'm starting to fill in the little bubbles.
Nice,
I actually did the extended version because
Yeah.
I didn't want to just die at 80 years old. So I was like, oh, maybe 100.
Yeah.
They
You're
do
like,
120.
modern medicine.
Yeah.
You
I was
should
like,
be able to live to 100.
I mean, I might not be able to move very well with jiu-jitsu at the end, but I'll still be alive, you know?
Yeah, you'll be like 98. You'll be like, what bubble am I supposed
Yeah.
to fill in? Yeah. Where am I at?
Well, we'll keep this one short. Everyone out there, have a blessed day. And I promise, get this run through and put online. So take care.
See ya.
See you guys.